or printed version if it's digital data, right? And also, as a consumer, you have the right to object to processing, which mostly comes to machine learning or machine-driven decisions. So you need to be informed that processes or your data or decisions that you are involved in are processed by machines, and you have the right to object to it. So if hiring process, for example, is using some fancy AI or machine learning, or other cases, the person who is applying for a job needs to be informed and have the right to kind of say, no, I don't want to be subject for machine learning or so on. Okay, is it so far so good? It's a lot of rights. So the question is, if when companies collect a lot of data, they can do fancy stuff and processes to give some information. And if I download it, what do I do as a consumer, right? Yeah. So I think with data portability is the idea that you can move between different services. So for example, if you have some famous email service and you suddenly decide, no, I want to use another. So you need to be able to easily port your data to that. Or if you're using fitness application, or if you're using other types of services. So I think the idea is to kind of remove locking in people into services, into digital services, where you kind of like, well, I have been with the service for 5 years, like I cannot move anywhere, and they can increase prices and so on. So this will open probably more of competitive landscape, so you can take your data and you can move to another service that is maybe better, maybe faster, maybe cheaper, who knows, but kind of in that sense. Yeah, so I don't think it was a question, it was a business idea to take data from existing services and process it and make it better. Definitely. I mean, we will see how it all will play out.
So is the assumption at that point they'd have to inform you before they could do it?
Yes, definitely. Or not inform, they need to ask you permission.
Yeah.
They need to ask your permission.
You're going to need to get a new, okay.
Yeah. It's like taking out in ATM all your money and going to new bank. Kind of like if analogy works, I don't know. It was funny for me, but nobody else left. So.
Does that interoperability imply an import burden as well? Like I can imagine exporting it, that makes sense. But does that mean if I'm an email provider, I have to be able to import data from arbitrary sources?
So the question is for data portability, if I need to provide import data options, not according to regulation, but I think that implicitly makes businesses want to do it, because now suddenly you can, I can get terabytes of customer data and just take them from different companies. So the business and competition landscape will be shifting, because now you are not locked to one car or one services. You can reuse your data that you collected, your fitness and so on, in another service. It's, when you're thinking in a more global perspective, it's kind of game changing how it can evolve.
But do you have any control as to with whom you mean the person who's collecting the data can share the information? Say my health data, the doctor is collecting, and they share it with the insurance company without my permission?
So the question was, if a company collects the data, can this share with third party without consent? No. So you have to explicitly give consent and be informed how your data used. And this is in terms of GDPR, this is a processor. So controller is the one that is collecting all the data. and a company needs to be explicit about if they're using third party to process. And they are responsible, essentially, company to make sure that this third party is also compliant. So now what we probably will see is that companies who are using libraries and third-party services, they will be moving to those who become compliant because regulations require that, and it will just make life easier. So it's a lot of opportunities for new businesses to start from scratch and think about data privacy and be compliant from the beginning and get a lot of customers. You wanted to add something? No? How is time? Oh, yeah. Yeah?
I mean, I've been watching too much Homeland. So, does this apply to governments as well? Because
Yeah.
collecting data on
So that is very good question. The question was that looking at Homeland Security show, does GDPR applies to governments because they do collect a lot of data? So the answer is yes, because it applies also to any governmental authority inside the Europe as well. There is a clause in the law that says that for legitimate purpose you don't need to always have consent. So for example, if you get some epidemiological disease or you commit crime, so you don't need to consent that I'm collecting as authority data about you. And how does it work with cases about national security services? I'm pretty sure it will not apply. It maybe would be interesting to request download all your data they have, but I don't know if there is so big USB sticks, but it's a good point, but it does apply to the government as well. Yes? Yeah.
As a practical matter, a government agency is going to be able to tell any European regulator to go understand. As a practical matter, government agencies are going to be immune to any kind of enforcement action that a European regulator might push to bring, and is going to have the law on their side. So if you're talking about the United States government agency, or the United States state agency, or even municipal agency, pretty much across stuff. And I will make declarations that if push comes to shove, that the European Union is going to have to back on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. I think GDPR, I think the EU is using GDPR as a trade to negotiate better deals, negotiate compliance across the world.
Well,
And
in
to
that
bring their
sense,
companies,
it's going to be,
to elevate their companies as well.
if GDPR is going to be turned into a non-tariff barrier, then the EU is going to find itself facing the WTO problem.
So it was very, very long sentence, so I am not going to repeat it. Sorry about that. I'm pretty sure Steve put it on a blockchain somewhere so we can recover it.
Oh, yes.
I mentioned that.
I have a question. So, like right now, Amazon Cloud or Amazon AWS, and they can get the data in, it's very difficult and expensive to get the data out. Do you think this will actually change that?
Well, I mean, you mean as a service provider?
Yeah.
Well, they providing tools, actually, they have some of the tools to help you being GDPR compliant, but essentially it is up to the company how they will deal with the end user. So they provide some tooling, they provide some mechanism, and I will go into that if I manage, but I mean, this will be up to the controller, the company who is collecting data. This is why I think companies will have to start be more considerable what we are collecting and why, and not just be like Wild Western gold mining times, like just like take it all and we will figure it out later, because it will be becoming just a burden essentially. Yes.
Kind of a question about who ultimately is responsible for providing these rights. So in the Amazon example, would it be Amazon or would it be
So
the customers
In Amazon, you mean in terms of a website that sells goods, or Amazon AWS?
Well, yeah, would it be AWS or would it be the customer?
It will be the customer, so it's always the person or the company who is facing the consumer that is ultimately responsible for everything. So you who is collecting data. So Amazon, obviously, as a website, they are responsible for that. But if you're using AWS services, you're using the databases and the Dockers and all the Lambdas and so on, all the functionality, it's you who is building the system is responsible to do it in such ways that you can easily retrieve the data, easily delete data, and engage with the consumer.
So the software company, for example, like a company we're an e-commerce software company, we couldn't be ethically liable because we create the customer site for our clients. So it would be the client who would be liable.
Yes, if the client, so this is I can talk more in detail with you after the talk, but essentially it's a person, so if you build it for somebody, you obviously are in role of consultant on selling service. So you can be processor if you're running that for them, but I think companies are ramping up and asking that it's all will be built GDPR compliant, because you don't want to buy a house and rebuild it. You want to buy a house that have a door and windows that you can and heating, right? So the same will be for the services and all the libraries and all the processors and all the, all the cloud services that we have. It's either they will go away because European companies or companies engaging with Europe will be looking for vendors who are compliant and make it easy. Right, so it's changes slightly how you need to think about it. Yeah.
Using the term rights, is this a regulatory overlay, or are people going to be able to bring court action and lawsuits?
Oh, yes, you can bring even. So the question was if this just rights like written in paper, or regulatory or enforced by law. So this is enforced by law. Any of these rights, company has 30 days to respond. So if I request all my data to be deleted or rectified or download, you have 30 days to do it. After that, I can go to any authority, make a complaint, and let you hope for the best. Yes, Germany, France, England, I think most companies will follow. It's even class law actions optional now. So talking about money, everybody are awake now. Yeah. Yes.
So I was going to, if I wanted to summarize the talk up now, it used to be that the data you gave the company was theirs. Under the new regulation, your data is yours.
Yes. This is very good summary. So the summary was of the whole talk, and like 40 minutes I did this in one sentence. Previously, when the companies collected data, it was theirs. From 25th May, the data they collect is still yours. So they need to ask you first. That is very good summary. So, and 40 minutes in, I need to now speed up slightly. So, and that is not all. Yes. Oh yes, they're still European Union. So Brexit does not impact because it has not happened yet. So as long as they still are in European Union, it applies to them as well. Yeah. And the ICO of UK is very on getting money from somewhere now when EU is gone. So be aware. And that is not all. So, right, we talked about customer engagement, we talk about rights, what need to be done, and still you have a lot of responsibility. You need to record your processing, you need your data privacy officer in some cases, and you need to do data impact assessment. These had numbers before, so it was like, hey, if you had 250 people, you need to have a data privacy officer. The numbers have been removed. because even as a 10-person company, you can be processing tens of millions of very private information. So now it's all kind of fuzzy about the, or not fuzzy, it's in principle about the amount of personal data you are processing. So it can be one-person company, you still need to have a data privacy officer if you have hundreds of millions private data records. And this is not the end, right? So you need to be thinking about how to pseudo-anonymize and encrypt your data. You need to ensure the ongoing security, which means confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It has to be continuous resilience of processing system and services. So if you're providing a service that processes in some way personal data records, you need to make sure that this is resilient and also be able to restore availability quickly after any outages. Additionally, you need to be doing all the continuous testing, assessment, and evaluation of the effectiveness of the technical and organizational measures to ensure privacy and security. So, yes?
So I was just going to point out that there's a meltdown in the sector, and most of the world's processes do not meet these requirements. So I assume that there's a sort of like, let's be realistic about this problem. Because, you know, Intel isn't compliant, HP isn't compliant, ARM isn't compliant, IBM isn't compliant. You know, I don't know if all of a sudden we're all be buying smart processors from Oracle, right?
Well, I mean, kind of, yeah. So, in essence, you're right. You know, it's hard to become compliant, but I think the idea behind all this is that to put security practices first, because it's for a very long time, startups and security and privacy startups and companies have been neglecting, because putting